Alright, so today I'm going to create an external battery pack for the Sony A7s, and it's going to be powered using these Canon batteries because the voltage is fairly the same, and the Sony will accept these batteries for an external power source. Obviously, the first thing you're going to want to get is a dummy battery. So here's the dummy battery with the lead coming out. I don't like the excess wire, so I'm probably just going to cut this down and shorten up this wire eventually. But for now, let's just work on the battery pack with the Canon LP-E6. So what I'm showing you here is a couple of battery chargers. You'll notice you've probably seen a lot of these out there. This one is charging a Sony L series battery, and this one is charging a Canon LP-E6. Now you notice that the trays are different, and I'm pointing this out because you can actually remove the trays like this, and then this is all you're left with, a very slim profile tray. Same with this Sony over here. So these trays are interchangeable, so if you guys have these laying around, this is a great thing to have. Otherwise, if you buy it, it's much cheaper than trying to find a battery plate for an LP-E6. So just buy one of these chargers because they're dirt cheap, and just take this plate off, and this is what you're left with. So now, when we plug our battery here, that's all we have. So the next thing we have to do is just find a way to connect this adapter into here. Now I can wire this directly, but I kind of like having this option here because I can use other battery sources besides a Canon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one of these connectors here to this tray so that this will just have to connect here, and then we're done. So pretty simple. So I just need to get this in here, and what you'll notice is for the Canon, it's very straightforward. There's two tiny little pins here. There's positive and negative, and that's really it. And over here we have positive and negative on this tip. So we just have to connect the wires to this, and we're done. So very simple. So let me open this up, attach this, and then we'll have ourselves a working battery power solution for the A7s, and in a very, very slim, lightweight, tiny profile. And obviously here we can modify this to have it mount on just about anything we want. So let's get started on that. Now you'll notice that inside here, this is all we have is positive and negative. There's a little board in here. Most of the charging circuitry is inside this part of the charger. In this plate, it's very bare. So all we need to do now is just have these wires connect to this tip here, and then we're pretty much done. So we have to just make sure that we're running the negative and the positive correctly on this terminal here, whether it's positive out or negative out. So let's bring up a diagram and figure out where we need to run the wires to this adapter. All right, so this is the brick or wall adapter that actually plugs into this dummy adapter here. So this actually lets you run your Sony A7s off the wall outlet. So that's why it's a good reason not to kind of change this here, is we can always power our Sony from the wall, and then if we're not powering it off the wall, we can power it using an LP-E6 battery. So keep this the same. But according to the back of this here, our negative is on the outside and our positive is on the inside. Okay, so at this point I removed that little board here. We don't need this for charging. We just need to run the battery straight to the coupler. And then I drilled two little holes here for this tip. Now, depending on the tip you're going to use, it might be a little different how you mount it. But what I can do now is pass these pins in here and solder the wires to that. Now, getting these wires to solder right here is going to be a little tricky. So I'm going to run some extension wires, run the wires out here, solder it, and then pull them back through. And then once it's through here, I'm just going to seal this with some heavy-duty epoxy, and then that should not go anywhere. It should be practically impossible to remove once it's there. And then this is basically what we'll be left with. Just this little Canon DC coupler right here that will power our Sony A7s with a LP-E6. Alright, so I'm not quite sure if you could see, but I kind of drowned the inside here with some heavy duty epoxy, some of this stuff over here, so very strong stuff, and that's really just to keep this connector from getting pulled out, yanked out. I also threw some epoxy around the wiring and then covered up the wiring with some tape. That's not going anywhere and no risk of shorting whatsoever. This thing is going to be pretty solid. Okay, basically that's it. This dummy battery goes right into your Sony A7s. This one right here plugs into this little tray, and then this battery just slides right into the tray, and now you can power off of LP-E6. Now, mounting this battery tray is going to be pretty easy because you can use anything from Velcro, or I can actually add something here to mount it to the hot shoe, but that's kind of the bulk of it right there. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It's helpful and inexpensive because, again, these battery chargers you can find just about anywhere, dirt cheap, and they may not be the best chargers, but once again, you can take the trays out and use it for something. So this is actually for a Sony L series. Now I can make the same power adapter using Sony batteries with this little tray right here. Again, these things are like just a few bucks and much cheaper than trying to buy a dedicated LP-E6 tray that has some sort of cord on it. Alright, super quick follow-up here just to jump back in the video. It worked out so well that I decided to finish off my Sony L series battery tray. And so what you see here is a cord, and I actually just found this from an old adapter that I had laying around. This is a very common size. If you dig through some of your garbage, some of your old adapters may have this fitting that fits perfectly with this Sony here. This is like a I think a 2.5 or 5.5 OD over here. Very common size in video accessories. Actually, most accessories is very common. So I took the cable and I just soldered it right to the pins here, and this is what I'm left with. Very thin tray. This again for the Sony. Here's my Sony L battery. This is a 750, but you can get like a 970 or something, one of those huge capacity ones, and plug it in here, and then you would plug this in there and you're able to charge your Sony A7s from Sony batteries. The reason you can do that again is because this is running 7.4 volts, very similar to what the A7s is running internally, so it's perfect for powering up your Sony camera. Anyways, yeah, these battery trays here, take them off your old chargers or buy them. Sometimes you can get those chargers for as little as 99 cents. So anyways, more information, check it out on the blog, cheesycam.com.